Provide this update on the publication of a proposed bill to provide for enhanced cooperation with legacy inquests in Northern Ireland. Minister, the Kingsmill massacre was a heinous crime. It was an affront to humanity, an attack on all the good people that lived and worked in a small sleepy townland of Kingsmills near Whitecross in South Armagh. I remember this atrocity vividly as an 8-year-old boy growing up a few miles from where the carnage took place. It was described as one of the deadliest mass shootings of the Troubles in a vicious period of tit-for-tat murders in a small geographical area where the scale of loss of human life during this period was unimaginable. On January 5, 1976, on a dark cold winter's evening, a minibus with workmen travelling home after a day's work was stopped on the side of a lonely country road by armed gunmen. Workmen were ordered out and lined up against the minibus. The one Catholic on the minibus was ordered to run away, and the 11 remaining passengers were faced with summary execution and slaughtered in cold blood. No self-defence and no chance. One man survived, Alan Black, despite having been shot 18 times. And he survives to this day, no doubt reliving the horror many, many times over on a daily basis. Minister, the local community was in a state of shock. Last week in Belfast, Justice Brian Sherrod heard representation from stakeholders on the ongoing debate of whether the inquest into Kingsmills should name the 2 deceased suspects in this case, 2 individuals who were in receipt of the on-the-run comfort letters. Justice Sherrod also made reference to the Birmingham bombings inquest, where senior IRA figures in Dublin had authorised the naming of 4 deceased suspects involved in these bombings, names that the inquest subsequently published. He appealed for anyone with information in relation to Kingsmill to release this to the families or to the authorities and give answers to some of the questions that have tormented the families for over 4 generations. During the hearing, Counsel for the Coroner Sean Doran QC noted that Dublin authorities give assurance that a bill allowing the coroner to travel south to question guard officers would be progressed in September 2018. Unfortunately, there appears to be little or no advancement of this. Alan Keane QC, counsel for some of the families, made the point that families had lost hope, partly as a result of the apparent lack of appetite for Dublin to move on this, and a concern that any further written questions regarding the massacre to the Dublin authorities would actually be a distraction from the lack of progress on the bill. When this was reported last week in the Belfast newsletter, Philip Bradfield noted that the newsletter had actually contacted the Irish Department of Justice, who stated that drafting of this bill was, and I quote, at an advanced stage and would be published very soon. Furthermore, criticism was also levelled at the Northern Ireland office by a failure to present a witness to provide evidence on the on-the-run scheme, even though contact had been made as far back as February. This atrocity goes down as one of the darkest episodes in the Troubles across the province. Families torn apart with grief and loss have felt abandoned by the state on both sides of the border. These families, as passive onlookers to other inquests and inquiries, and namely the Bloody Sunday inquiry, Ballymurphy, Birmingham pub bombings, and as recently as yesterday, with developments in the Daniel Hegarty case, they feel completely abandoned and left behind, with a sense of unfairness and a feeling that there's absolutely no regard for their redress, closure for them, answers to their questions, and an opportunity to get whatever small degree of comfort or closure they rightly deserve, at this stage, 43 years later. These people are living this horror on a daily basis. It never goes away, it never will go away. The wrongs cannot be righted or the loved ones returned. But what can be done is to hasten the progress of this bill, to assist with answers to questions, to assist with the legal process, and to demonstrate to these families that there is no hierarchy of loss or pain or suffering, that there is no hierarchy of victims, and to demonstrate that all victims' families deserve answers and closure. Minister, I'd like to ask you today, where is this bill? Why have there been delays, and when can this House expect to see advancement of this bill? Can the Minister give assurance to the families of Kingsmills that no stone will be left unturned to answer their questions and facilitate the coroner in his attempt to fill the information gaps in this 43-year struggle fighting for answers? Furthermore, I appeal to the inquest at Kingsmills in Belfast to release names of the suspect in this case. In closing, if there is any degree of humanity or compassion in those responsible for this atrocity, they should see fit to authorise the release of the suspects' names. The release of names in the Birmingham inquest has set a precedent, not only to identify those responsible, but to take the suspicion and stigma away from those mistakenly labelled as perpetrators in the locality. No doubt this one act was a defining moment in the history of South Armagh and drove a wedge of mistrust between communities that would take decades to heal. This bill will not bring back the deceased, but it will go some way to reassure these families that they are as important as others, and like others, they too deserve answers.
Thank you, Senator Marshall. Minister.